Hello, everybody. Welcome to Eat Sleep Game. That's not wrong. You are on the Eat Sleep Game channel now, and this is the Game for All podcast. It's got a number to it, and I forgot to check what number it is, which I'm doing right now. And I've gone to the wrong place because I said it was on my channel now, and I still went to the old channel because I am a fool.
Numbers are a nightmare, man.
They are. This is 91. This is episode 91. Obviously, last week was our Horizon Forbidden West spoiler cast, which was good fun. Everybody's checked that out. If you've finished Horizon, don't check it out before because spoilers. It's a spoiler cast. That's exactly what it is. As you can, tell immediately because I'm the first one talking, things are a little bit different today. Both Sean and Jordan are away, which would have left me on my own if it were not for the hero that I have over here. You've seen him before, you know him, you love him. It is the Nintendo boy himself. Naman, how are you doing, my dude?
I'm doing very well, man. How's it going?
Yeah, well, it was going to be lonely until you came to save the day.
Yeah, you were betrayed, they left you, so someone had to come and save the day. So
yeah.
I'm here, here for that.
But they were just going to let me wallow in Nintendo ruining my birthday by announcing that Breath of the Wild was delayed until next year.
Oh wow, was it announced on your birthday? That's a real shame.
Yeah. I mean, I was fully expecting that it wasn't coming out this year anyway.
Agreed. Yeah. No, there was no way it was happening. No. But I like that Nintendo do this thing where they upload a whole video of Enuma in front of a green screen, just like. Also, he had a new haircut, which looked great, so I appreciate that.
He did.
But yeah, they put a lot of effort into their announcing of delays. They've done it multiple times, I think, for Zelda games as well, and it's.
I think they know there's like 1,000 YouTube channels that are gonna tear that tiny bit of new footage apart.
Yes,
like when you see what it looked like. I'm not even sure if it's Ganon. I can't decide if it's Ganon or oh damn, I forgot the name. What's the name of the first villain?
Oh gosh, Ganondorf? No, not
no. The one that. Oh damn!
In what game? There are so many Zelda villains.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess has Zant. Zant is in Twilight Princess. You got Girahim in Skyward Sword. Girahim. There's a lot of Zelda villains. There's Vati. Vati is in Minish Cap. Trying to think who are the other big.
It's the canonically first game.
So the canonically first game is Skyward Sword in the timeline. If we're talking about timeline stuff, then Skyward Sword comes before all the others.
What was the villain?
Minish Cap. Demise.
Demise. Thank you.
Demise. Demise is like the like I guess like spiritual version that becomes Ganondorf and like continues down the line. Yeah. Okay.
I can't decide if it's Ganondorf or him because I don't know. It's kind of like me with Mario. It'd be nice to just see a different villain for a bit. I think.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate like. Because Skyward Sword obviously had Girahim, but then Girahim turned out to be like not actually the main villain. Same thing with Twilight Princess actually, because Zant was the villain throughout most of the game, and then it's like, oh, by the way, here's Ganondorf at the end, kind of thing. So they always have to go back to that with Zelda games, and I agree with you. I'd appreciate it if they did something different, but it seems like this sequel is just going to do the same thing, and it's going to have
because it looks like he's stabbed through the chest like Ganon was in one of the games and stuff like that. But he's got the arm. He's stolen his arm, which is interesting.
Exactly.
And the Master Sword
is very long fingernailed arm as well, which is a little creepy.
Yeah, completely disproportionate to Link, but interesting nonetheless.
So were you someone who didn't like the weapon degradation in the first game, or were you okay?
I go back and forth on it, to be honest. Okay. Like I don't mind it too much because it makes you use the other weapons. I didn't like the way the Master Sword was done, sort of thing, where it ran out of energy. Sort of thing, and then you couldn't use it for a bit, or it was less powerful, or whichever way it was, because it's the Master Sword. But then I guess it maybe makes sense depending on the story they're telling as well, if the Master Sword's not fully powered or whatever.
Yeah, I think the corrupted Master Sword that we see in that little snippet of footage makes me think that people who hated weapon degradation and want it to go away are going to be very disappointed, because if that's what the Master Sword looked like, then probably I think it's coming back. So we'll see.
I mean, like if the weapon degradation whatever,
yeah, it's hard work.
it's early still.
It's early. Yeah.
If that's the biggest issue you have with the game, you're still gonna have, a hell of a time. I'm still very excited for it because it's the first time they've done a straight sequel since Majora's Mask. Like,
it is. Which you would think that would mean it takes a shorter amount of time because they're using the same world, right? Like obviously there's a sky, and Uma was like, hey, it's gonna be even more expanded, which my theory on that is we're gonna go underground, like the castle lifts up, Zelda falls underground. My theory is we're gonna play as Zelda underground and Link above ground. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but that'd be amazing. Cool. But yeah, it's also, despite it using the same world and being an iterative sequel, like you said, it's now going to be the longest gap between mainline Zelda games, like 6 years by the time this thing comes out, which, because they're positioning it for spring next year, I feel like they're not going to miss the opportunity to do the same date again, March 3rd, 2023. I think that sounds like too perfect. So.
Yeah, and COVID was a thing as well, so it's all kind of wonky. It's all kind of wonky when it comes to anything like that at the moment. There's the longest gap between a lot of things currently, but patience will hopefully be rewarded at some point. It's not going to be like Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is never coming out.
No, that's not a real video game. That doesn't exist.
That's not, and it hurts me because I love Beyond Good and Evil. Just remake the first one, please. That would be great.
I mean, the thing is, is that something that you wanted, right? When you saw Beyond Good and Evil 2, what they were going to make it, which is this like giant open world, like planet size, almost Star Citizen level of exploration open world game. That's not really a sequel to because that original game's like a Zelda game, like it's a very small scope. It's not like this big stratospheric thing, which
and then when they were like, oh, it's prequel, and then Jade was a villain, it looked like. So, okay, I love this game enough that I want to see what you're doing with it, but like, what is this? What's that? Because that's not anything that's really even hinted at, that she has a shady past or something like that, or like massively, she was a straight up villain at some point. Just remake the first one. Just remake the first one, which is what a lot of the Splinter Cell too. Ubisoft have a lot of remakes they could do for me, and I'd be a happy boy.
But sure. That Prince of Persia one still cooking apparently. Who knows when that'll come back?
I think that's dead. I think that's gone.
Well, we'll see.
I think they've scrapped that because it somehow looked worse than the original. But
and I played the original not that long ago actually. I actually was like 5-6 years ago. I found a GameCube copy of it and played through on a CRT, which is a great way to play it.
Nice.
It's actually a great game. Like, hold up pretty well. I'd say some of the combat stuff not as good, but the time rewind mechanic and the platforming and stuff really
very cool.
You can see like the DNA of Assassin's Creed in that first Prince of Persia game, which is really cool. So.
I'd love them to do like a proper like mix it and do a side scrolly one with time mechanics. Because that's where they started. They used to do side scrolly stuff and have like a kind of like a Dead Cells, but with time mechanics would be cool. Be very cool.
That'd be awesome. Sure.
But that's all hypothetical and would be lovely in an ideal world. What have you been playing recently, my dude?
Lots of stuff. I always bounce between tons of different games all the time. So I'm playing loads of things. Obviously Elden Ring is the big one. That's where most of my time is going towards. I had a week off, so I was away from my PC. I went back up to Scotland where my family is.
Nice.
Took my Switch with me and played like 40 hours of Triangle Strategy. So that game also played quite a bit of, which I really enjoyed and thought was very good. But it meant that I didn't get to play as much Elden Ring as I would like. I think everyone's kind of passed me by now. I'm only 35 hours into the game, and I'm kind of like in the third area-ish is where I'm at the moment. I finished up the Academy, which is like in the lakes area, and I've kind of journeyed further into kind of this rotting red area called Caelid that is very scary, terrifying, lots of big enemies and scary things. And I kind of somehow made my way towards the boss of that area accidentally by like finding a teleporter that took me there. And now I'm like, oh, I haven't explored enough of this area yet, so I'm gonna leave it and go back there later. But this I think it's absolutely astonishing. It's like easily one of the best games I've ever played. I don't know if you're playing it or not, or if you guys have checked it out yet.
I think Jordan's been playing it. I am going to soon, but that's for something new. I'm contemplating doing a playthrough on the channel, so I want to change some of the stuff I'm doing, and I've never finished a Souls-like before.
Okay,
I've played loads.
You've tried them though, right?
Oh yeah. I've played like I think I've played most of them, but I'm very, very good at getting relatively good at it, and then taking a wrong turn and being somewhere I shouldn't and absolutely being destroyed and not being able to get out of it. And that kind of ends a run for me.
Right. That's the kind of thing with Elden Ring though, is like, I think for me, the worry with the other Souls game, which by the way, I've never played one before. This is my first one. So that's my first entry into the series. And I think the worry for me was always like, well, what if I get to a boss and I get stuck and then I just have to grind the same enemies for hours and hours just to level up so that I can have a chance against them. And the amazing thing about Elden Ring is if that happens, then you don't have to just go grind the same enemies. You can just go off anywhere and do a million other things and naturally just have that progression. Like right at the beginning of the game, there's Margit, who's like the first gut check boss, right? Everyone gets to Margit and is like, okay, I'm getting my ass kicked. I need to go do stuff. And so I got there, fought him a few times, got maybe half his health down, died a lot, and decided, okay, let's just go away for like 3-4 hours. Went away for 3-4 hours, found an amazing weapon that I'm still using at the moment. It's this massive scythe. It basically just like skeleton enemies that randomly drop it. And I found it and I started using it, upgraded it. And I came back and just absolutely destroyed him. Just soared through that guy with my scythe, which was amazing. It's a great feeling, right? To have that kind of level of power growth as you go through. And Elden Ring is all about that. It's all about like giving you these cool things that are rewarding to find and just like really satisfying when you get to use them. So it's just been a real delight and kind of trades in the same stuff as Breath of the Wild does, right? In terms of the mystery of the world and just finding stuff and the game not telling you anything, right? You just figuring stuff out on your own and having the satisfaction of figuring out as a result.
And that's going to leave people with like so many stories. Breath of the Wild, I'll never, ever forget. I always forget the name of it, but I'll never forget that village that you built and all the little stories in
Tarrytown.
Tarrytown. Thank you. I will never forget my experience doing that because it is just such an incredibly well done thing. Like you just randomly go back to the people you bought your house from, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing this thing," and then you go off and have like mini stories within that one bigger story. It's so cool. And like Elden Ring's going to be the same because of the way that people experience stuff completely differently to say like something like Horizon, where it's like, well, it's a dot on a map, you're gonna go see it sort of thing.
Exactly. And I guess not quite as wholesome in terms of the stories like Harrytown would be, because most of it is like, I found this like dark cave and I went in and all this stuff. Like I think I was talking about on our episode recently where I found this cave area where there were a bunch of like guillotine things like coming down, and it was almost like I don't know, one of those like game show challenges where you kind of go through the guillotines
or like an Indiana Jones thing.
Right. Yeah. And I got to the end and it was a dead end. And I was like, well, I don't know where to go. And then I went back to the room. I realized there's a skeleton motherfucker like up on a little ledge. I'm like, I can't jump up there. That's like way too high for me. I can't summon my horse in here. So I can't like double jump. And I was like, how the fuck do I get up there? Because there's no way to get up there anywhere else. I like scoured the rest of this mini dungeon. And then I realized if I waited for the guillotines to come down and go below the floor and then just stand on top of them as they rise up, I was lifted by the guillotine up towards it. I was like, oh, that's amazing. It's so good. It's so cool that I just like figured out this moment. And like by going through there, you get access to like a secret boss of the level, as well as like opening the lever to open the door to the main boss as well. So there's like 2 bosses in this. It's crazy, man. There's even though like a lot of those smaller kind of cave areas are similar in terms of the way they look, just the sense of discovery and the different things you fight and the things you see is always changing and crazy. So it's pretty incredible.
I'm very much looking forward to getting to it. So kind of, if it's mixing the kind of style of world and exploration that Breath of the Wild has with, Dark Souls mechanics.
And that's really what it is. Like it doesn't, it doesn't do the kind of physics stuff that Zelda does.
Of course.
It's much more about, I don't know, just like the mystery of the world and like the lore and kind of figuring out what the story is, alongside just the map and the way that it's very similar to the map in the sense that it just shows you like the topography of the land. It doesn't put icons everywhere. Although they did patch it to make like finding NPCs a bit easier and things like that, which I appreciated. But like a lot of it is just driven by your own interest. Like the reason I managed to get to the boss of this kind of area without even realizing it was I found this fort and I went through this entire fort and then just got to the end of it and there was just a random teleporter and I was like, all right, let's just, your curiosity is piqued. Like every time I find one of those, I'm always like, well, I'm gonna take it because I need to see where I need to go. And the nice thing about Elden Ring is because it's so open, it allows you to, and I heard people complain about this with Horizon, of like fast travel and having like, you need to have stuff in order to fast travel. Like it uses some kind of item in order to do it every time, which I found that in the first game as well for Horizon was really annoying. I was like, I just want to fast travel everywhere. And Elden Ring, surprisingly, is fine. It just lets you fast travel from wherever you are, which is great. And is makes things a lot smoother and easier, which means like taking the risk of, oh, I'm just going to go to a teleporter. It's fine because I can just fast travel out of there if I need to, right? So yeah, it's really good. I would recommend people play it. It's maybe a masterpiece of a video game and probably the best thing I've played in a long time. So yeah.
I hear that a lot, and I cannot wait. I might actually start it today. Might start it today. What have I been? Have you been playing anything else? Or
yeah, jumping around a few different things. I started Tunic. I'm a few hours into that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Which also feels like Elden Ring in a weird way. Like it's interesting that these two games have come out at the same time because I feel like they're doing somewhat similar things in that Tunic is also a game about mystery and not telling you anything, and you kind of figuring it out by like finding the pieces of this manual and seeing like the language that you can't understand, but trying to intuit like what the game is trying to tell you. And I think I found myself up against like a boss out of sequence in Tunic as well. I got to it and I just got absolutely destroyed. I was like, all right, I'm going to leave for a while and come back to this later. And yeah, so I'm just kind of wandering around the map now to try and figure out what I'm supposed to do. It's kind of a Zelda setup of like, get the three things, right? It's like the water and the fire and the grass one, right? Like it's like all those games are set up that way, but it's done in a more unique fashion where exploration is rewarded and like going around corners, and just the way they use perspective in the game is really interesting because everything is hidden in plain sight. Like you kind of like walk around a wall and you're like, oh wait, I can actually go behind here, and you just keep walking. You kind of see the silhouette of your character just going into the distance. Cool. And then there's a treasure chest and you find something in it and it doesn't tell you what it is, and you just have to use it to find out, right? Like I found these potions, I was like, oh, I wonder if these heal me, and I just used it. It's like, oh no, this is a frost bomb that throws out and just freezes enemies. I was like, okay, well, cool. Now I know what it is, I guess. So a lot of discovery in that game is like, it gives you stuff and you're like, I don't know what any of this does, but let me try it out and see. And it has like that kind of like a door. It's a really good looking game as well. Just like the tilt shift angle, the art style, it's beautiful, really, really smooth and lovely and very, cute. It's the cute version of Elden Ring, your little fox, but there's still some like big scary enemies in that game. So it kind of plays in both things, and yeah, I've been enjoying that a lot as well.
That style of game is absolutely my jam at the minute, because I did last year. I played through Link's Awakening remake, and I adore that game. I absolutely adore that. And then like Death's Door came, and I adored that. And then I saw Tunic, and I'm like, oh, I need this.
I think it'll be your jam for sure. Yeah,
I've got it installed.
Has, nice. It has the similar Souls-ish combat to some degree. It's I wouldn't say it's as refined or as satisfying as Death's Door is. Like Death's Door really nailed the mechanics of combat, whereas this, I think, is focused a bit more on the esoteric, like puzzle solving of the world and that type of thing. But the combat is still solid, right? Like it still feels good, and you got your dodge roll and your shielding and parrying and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I would say that it's not like as similar an experience. Where Death's Door, I think, also had, I don't know how much you played in terms of the extra stuff, because I know there's a lot of secrets in Death's Door, and
the only thing I didn't do was beat everyone with my umbrella, which is like the last
wow, okay.
Yeah, I got Etsy figures of that game so much.
Okay.
I love that game so much.
Yeah, because I know there's lots of like hidden secret stuff in that game too. And so if you went and did all that, I think that Tunic is definitely up your alley as well, because it feels like Fez, you know, like it's like a game that no one has any idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And like the community kind of needs to figure it out together, almost, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of games like that at the moment, which I think the industry is maybe paying attention to, of like, okay, so Elden Ring did really well and people love Tunic, and like maybe we should just start designing games a bit more like, it's not like leading the player by the nose, right? Because I played, I think, like 60 hours of Assassin's Creed Odyssey over the past year and a half or so, and I finished it like earlier this year. And I was like, oh yeah, I enjoyed like going around and just doing stuff and doing mini quests and like ticking things off a list, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably go back to this and you know, play a bunch more of it and finish off the stuff I hadn't done. And after playing Elden Ring and stuff like that, I'm like, do I ever want to play one of these again? Like, do I really want to go and pick up Horizon right now?
I feel
because I look at it and I'm like, it's just one of those. Like, it's pretty and it's big and stuff, but it's one of those. And I've played like 20 of those. I just don't know if I care anymore.
I,
you know?
I 100% get that, because like I said it in our spoiler cast last week. I had so many small nitpicks that like Breath of the Wild did years ago, whereas like why doesn't why don't the outfits mean more? Like if you're in a cold situation, if you're in a cold place, Aloy like shivers, and I'm like, that was Breath of the Wild. I have to do something to fix that.
Right. There's no like gameplay consequence to this.
No.
It's just like,
or like did you play Ghost of Tsushima?
I did, yeah.
You know, like you can interact with the animals and the animals lead you places. I wanted them so much to just do that, to, you know, add more depth to that, and that be how you find stuff, and instead of popping up on the map. Like I want more stuff like that, because open world games are very, very samey at the minute, and it makes it very hard to play any of them when they're all just put everything on the map. It's fine. You can. There's no exploration.
Exactly.
Like
the Ghost of Tsushima thing is cool with the foxes, but like it's very clearly a repeatable activity of like, once you know what to do, it's just like kind of follow it every time. As opposed to like, you know, there's stuff in Breath of the Wild, like sometimes there will be a bunch of birds like floating over a location, and like the game never tells you anything about that, but that like indicates that there's something there. I can't remember what it was specifically, but like if you see like birds circling something, it indicates there's something in that location, and you won't know, because the game just doesn't tell you it, right? Like it doesn't mark it on your map as something, it doesn't say it's something.
It was
the fox dens are all kind of clearly on the map. Yeah,
they're all marked, and it's like, oh, the thing you're looking for is in this kind of area. It's like, no, don't do that. Just, you know, I come across a fox or I see some birds or whatever, and that's, you're telling me there's something to look at there. Like that. I want more games to do that, because they are, it's not, I don't want to say lazy, but it is starting to feel like that, where it is just like, oh, we'll focus everything here. Like Horizon has a very, very good story, but the rest of everything, other than like the actual character side quests, everything else just feels like, I've done this. Some of it's literally copy and pasted from the first game, sort of thing. And I was just like, I want, you know, you're going up against Elden Ring, who is, you know, replicating a lot of the feelings that Breath of the Wild gave. But, you know, this has to be we need to change this sort of thing now. Otherwise, I think a lot of studios that make these kind of games, you know, Ubisoft and that, are going to start to see a bit of a decline and a bit more pushback on that. It's like, well, you know, they did this differently and they thought about it this way and did this. That was really smart and clever and cool and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because playing Odyssey, it feels like they're trying to go in that direction, but they're still a bit too scared of it. You know, like there's
the mode they recommend.
The mode they recommend you play in is called like Explorer mode or something, and it's like, we won't put markers on your map. In terms of like, you know, where you need to go for quests, we'll just say, okay, the place you need to go is in this region of the map, and it has this. So it'll give you like 3 clues of like whereabouts it is. But very easily, all you need to do is go to that area, get your hawk to fly in the air, and then just like zoom in on a place, and the hawk is like, oh, well, I found it. Now it's marked on the map, and there it is. And it's like, well, that's not really me discovering it. It's like you trying to like push me towards it, and then you just tell me straight out where it is anyway. So it's like they're like almost there, like getting to the edge, and they're like, oh no. Players will be confused. We need to make sure they know exactly where it is.
No, exactly. Because like players are smarter than that, clearly, because a lot of them played and finished Breath of the Wild, and a lot of them are playing Elden Ring. Like, trust your players more, because then it will, that will cascade, and they'll keep thinking like that, so you can keep pushing it and keep being a bit more daring.
Sure.
But hey ho. What have I've only been playing one game.
Okay.
Since I've finished Horizon, because it's been scratching a bit of an itch, and it's a very, very different game than anything I think anyone else I know is playing currently, and that is Power Wash Simulator.
Oh hell yeah, nice.
Bro, it is just so satisfying. It's making me question my life, as in, like, should I just buy like a jet washer and like
should I just
start up a business? Should this be my life?
Fuck video games. I'm just gonna, wash cars now.
Should this be my life? Because if it's this satisfying in a game, like, is this one of those where it's actually that satisfying out in real life? Because I feel like it is. I feel like it actually could be.
There is a weird satisfaction I get in video games of cleaning stuff up, right? I think the main reason I was interested in the Gunk last year was because it was one of those games where I was like, oh, there's some goop. I'm just going to tuck it in my vacuum. Same with Luigi's Mansion. That's why I love Luigi's Mansion so much. It's just cleaning stuff up. And Haven, I don't know if you played Haven. That was, I think it's from the Game Bakers. They made Fury. It's like this, they did an update for it recently to have like same-sex couples and stuff, but it was this kind of, these two characters who like live on this planet far away, and a lot of the gameplay is kind of cleaning up the kind of goop along the ground, and you kind of glide over it, and I basically wanted to play that game because of that mechanic, right? Because it's cleaning up. So Power Wash Simulator speaks to me in that way, because that's the whole game, right? It's just cleaning things off surfaces.
It is. And like there you don't meet any other characters, but they'll send you like messages and stuff like that, and they're all weird and fun and stupid and stuff like that, but like it is just so satisfying. And to your point, I'm the same. My missus likes to play House Flipper, and like one of the things you can do in that is like clean the windows. And anytime she comes to that, she's like, Luke, do you want to clean the windows? I'm like, yeah, I do want to clean the windows, because it's really satisfying. And that's what this game is on just an expanded level. You clean. I've just finished up cleaning up a massive tree house, and it took me bloody ages. But like they do a really sped up, like shortened down video of what you had done afterwards, and it's just so satisfying just seeing all the it's just like, oh man, yes.
So question is, does it ever get frustrating of like, okay, there's one bit that I've missed, but it's so tiny that I don't know where it is, it's imperceptible almost? Like if you're like 99.6% and like you just don't know where that last bit is, how easy is it to find that stuff? Does the game do a good job of like leading you towards it?
So they're generally they're a bit forgiving on, you don't have to clean every tiny thing off of this thing, and you can press a button to highlight it in orange and stuff.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But you can also go into like your pools menu, and it's got a list of everything I need to clean in, so you can see what how far percentage wise you are to clean it, and you can just click on the thing and then wander around, and it will highlight and make it flash.
Okay, cool.
Because I've definitely had that. I've had it a couple of times, mostly on the motorbikes. So you can clean a couple of motorbikes, and there's like a bit just underneath the body sort of thing. It can be a bit difficult to see sometimes. But when you spot it, it's just like, it's done sort of thing. But it can be, because until I figured that bit out, that you could actually do that, because I only found out by accident. It was a bit like, what am I missing? What sort of thing? Yeah. Because it was telling me, but I was like, I don't know motorbikes. I don't know what that thing is.
Exactly.
I don't know what that is.
Telling you a specific part, and you're like, I am not a car person.
I don't know. I don't know what that is. Just but it is just super satisfying, especially when you get enough money to unlock like the higher powered jet
I was going to say, what's the progression like? You just get like different nozzles and different like strengths and stuff like that.
You can get, I think there's 4 different jet wash guns you can get. I haven't got the last one yet, but they do get more powerful as you go, and they are just, each one, it like, you can feel the power immediately, and you get like extenders and stuff like that. And then you can get one that's got like a washer on the end of it, and you can buy like metal washers and stuff like that. That just makes it's just kind of a shotgun approach to it, where you could just rinse off as much as you can, but it's not as precise sort of thing.
To me, it sounds like the perfect podcast game, right? Like
exactly.
Turn your brain off, catch up on some podcasts, just like chill out and just satisfyingly clean and scrape every last bit of dirt off of whatever you're cleaning.
Yeah, exactly. I've just had random YouTube video on while I'm doing it. It's just it's just so chill. It's just great. It's just it's like super addictive as well. So the first time I tried it, I had my brother over showing him some, I can't remember, it might have been a new wrestling game. And I was like showing him that, and I was like, oh, it's gone on sale. Sold it, downloaded it, 5 minutes, showing him. After 5 minutes, I'm hooked. Just can't stop playing it. It is great. And I'm like, part of me wants to look up how many things they have to clean, but part of me is also like, no, we'll just keep it. We'll just leave it. Just see how long it goes. Because I'm not bored of it. Because you can just, it's kind of the same as like I had with 2 Point Hospital a while back. It's just one of those where I just I just keep coming back to it. Like I'm not even thinking about playing another game at the minute. I'm just enjoying chilling with this. It's
not the kind of game you go through to be like, oh, I've beaten this now, right? It's just something that you always want to be able to come back to and like, I need something, I want to catch up on some video essay or whatever, or I've got a podcast backlog to listen to. Let me just do this mindless thing that will satisfy my brain while also I can pay attention to this other thing, right?
Exactly.
I'm interested if I think it's still just on PC, isn't it? I don't think it has come to console at all.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure off the top of my head, but it's super satisfying, and like it's sort of stopped me from playing anything else. But it's also like that's also been a good thing because, like I said, I'm thinking of doing some different stuff on my channel since we're being a bit more collaborative, and we've got Jeff who already does reviews. I'm thinking of doing more just like pissing about and having fun with like gameplay videos on my channel now.
Cool. Yeah. Sure.
I was going to do Power Wash, but I'm like, no, I'm going to keep that for me.
Yeah.
That could be my, like, if I get pissed off with a game, like that could be all funny on video when I'm pissed off, but then I'm like, I need to chill out, and like that'll be, especially if I'm going to start with Elden Ring, because I've, like I said, never beat a From game, and I think, get really pissed off with Elden Ring. I'm going to need something to like chill me out, and Power Wash is such, ironically, it's a great palate cleanser.
Yeah.
So man, it's just so satisfying. I don't know how deep it goes. I don't know how much, because I've done a fair few things. I don't know.
Feels like this the type of game where they're going to keep adding stuff to it, right? Like new areas,
quite possibly,
stuff to clean, right?
Because like there is definitely an end to it, but you can, anything you've done, you can go back and do again. Like it doesn't completely lock you out. You could just go back and I've done a lot. It's surprising because it feels like it goes so quick. Apart from like this treehouse took bloody ages because it's massive. But
that's the thing, right? Like it almost gets intimidating at a point of like, okay, now you're going to do an entire mansion, and it's like,
I'll
do it. But,
exactly. Next thing you know, Buckingham Palace is on there, like, oh god,
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Can't do this. But that's all I've been playing.
Cool.
Which, it's been enough. It's been enough.
Yeah, no, it sounds
it's been it's been lovely.
The only other thing for me was last night I played through A Memoir Blue, which is the short little narrative game from Annapurna. It was on Game Pass, and I was like, well, this is like 45 minutes apparently, so I might as well just go through it and see what it's like. It's fine. Like it's okay. It kind of tells like a kind of emotional story between a mother and a daughter, and like she's this swimmer, like, and it's kind of like won Olympics and stuff like that, and a lot of the story is told like she's kind of going underwater, and it's very kind of surrealist, and you just very light mechanically of like you're just moving objects to places, and then a little bit of narrative happens. Well, I think the best thing about the game is it has kind of 2D animation in it as well, and the 2D animation is incredible. Like it is so well done, really really beautiful stuff, to the point where it makes the 3D like polygonal stuff look a little bit bad by comparison, I would say, just because it's so good. But yeah, it kind of like mixes between flashbacks using that 2D animation of like when she was younger with her mother and her current self as she's kind of like going through remembering stuff while being underwater and like doing all these weird things. So I would say like it's totally fine. It's not as I wouldn't say it's impactful as something like a Florence or something like that, where I think that really nailed it when it came to like a very short, contained narrative experience. But it's neat. So yeah, it's a memoir, I believe.
It sounds reminiscent of one of the stories that, or What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah, kind of. I would say that. Yeah, definitely has that vibe to it. But yeah, I would say stuff like What Remains of Edith Finch and Florence definitely are much better in terms of kind of getting things across, but also like they're just more interesting mechanically, right? Like that section in Edith Finch where you're in the fishery chopping the fish and everything. It's like one of the most amazing sequences, and there's nothing like that really in this game. So it's very basic, it's very kind of like light, super light mechanically in a way that literally anyone can play it. It's very obvious. I'd say the weird thing about it actually is like using the mouse to drag stuff around feels like there's a lot of like resistance a lot of the time. Like I was trying to like drag these leaves away from the water to move on to the next section, and every time I drag, it was like something was wrong with my mouse because like the speed was so slow, and I guess the game wants you to be slow, but like it's almost like I'm taking my mouse, I'm like dragging it like all the way across the mouse pad just to get it to move. And so yeah, it's a little bit finicky. Feels like it's probably a bit better made for a touch screen, which I don't know if it's on iOS or not. It might be, but it's on Game Pass, so if you got a free 45 minutes, I'd say it's worth checking out.
Oh, fair. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about that recently.
Yeah, it's cool.
I've never been able to gauge, what they think of it. It's just been mentioned a lot, sort of thing.
I think that's the thing. There's a lot of people like, I played this.
That
was it. It was fun.
It exists. Yeah.
It exists.
For sure.
Yeah, totally.
So PlayStation had a slightly it was weird. It was kind of a big announcement, but they didn't. I don't know. I think it's fair to say they didn't treat it like a big announcement because there wasn't like a video. It was just a blog post, and it wasn't the easiest thing to decipher in that way. I think if they did a video and it was literally like this, I think it would have been better and more easily digestible.
I think one of the things about like maybe why, and we can get into this, like why it was a blog post is I don't think it's very exciting news, right? Like I don't think this is the like, we're gonna kill Game Pass now.
No, I think if it wasn't leaked and people didn't know about it, maybe it would be. But
maybe, So
it is just kind of a reshuffling, and it's exactly what I thought it would be. This is the, I guess, new PlayStation Plus, which starts in June, and it's totaling over 700 games, which would be on the highest tier. But they've announced exactly what I think most people thought it was going to be, where PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus are kind of just becoming one thing,
smudged together and then split out into like multiple different categories, basically.
It's their equivalent to Game Pass. It's their equivalent to like the Nintendo Switch Online stuff and expansion pack. But you get PlayStation Plus Essential, which is what it is at its bare bones currently. PlayStation Plus Extra, which adds up to 400 games, which does also adds a catalog of up to 400 games of PS4 and PS5 games. So it's kind of like,
so that's just like the modern game stuff.
And then you get Premium, which is all of that and old games as well, even some PSP games and PS2 games.
Yeah, which I was surprised by actually, because I guess PSP games have been in like the Vita store. You could download them from there. I don't think PS4 ever had the ability to download PSP games. Maybe PS3 did. I don't think you could play them on PS3. I think you had to play them on Vita, if I'm correct. There was a weird thing. I remember like having to like connect my Vita to my PS3, I think, to get some transferred across so that I could play them, because I could only download them on the PS3, but then I could only play them on the Vita. Sony have always had an issue with this, I think, in terms of like where you can play your stuff versus where you can download them.
They have. And like the PS3 has been the main issue with that because of the architecture and whatever. They just say the architecture. I don't actually know what that means.
So it's the cell architecture, I believe what it's called, and I don't really know anything about it because I don't know engineering at all, but all I know is that it was a nightmare to develop for, and so a lot of third parties had big problems, right? Like people remember Skyrim on PS3 had an issue where it just would it would keep everything in the world in memory. So every door you opened, every like thing you left on the ground, Skyrim would just be like, let's remember exactly what all this shit is. So by the point you're like 40 hours into the game, it's just like memory leaking crazy because it's remembering every single instance of everything across the entire world and not like managing it properly. So the PS3, I think if you weren't a Sony internal studio, was impossible to make games for, which I think is clear here because they haven't even attempted to make those games downloadable for this service. They're just via cloud streaming.
From what I heard, they had actually been trying to get it, but it was just impossible. They just couldn't do it, because it was just an absolute nightmare. But I was kind of like, well, I mean, you're working with Microsoft on, cloud stuff away from, literally PlayStation and stuff. Why not? Hey, is there any way you can help us with this? And we can give you, I don't know, Days Gone or whatever, work together slightly, like Nintendo do, the rising tides, boats, all that.
Yeah.
But, they've kind of, I don't want to say they've jumped on the bandwagon of, the Game Pass sort of thing, because they did it first. PlayStation now, they've been doing it for ages. It just wasn't very good. Even though I enjoy it because I got to play Bloodborne on my PC, which was pretty, it didn't run on my
FPS, PC. Right? But
it didn't run on my PC technically, but
I mean, I've used like the streaming stuff before. I remember when Persona 5 came out, and I had to like use a different TV because the TV was being used. I was so addicted to Persona 5 that I just had to play it. So I was like, right, I'm just gonna stream this to the PC next door. And make it work. And for a game like that, it's easier because it's turn-based, but it was still pretty chunky, like there was a lot of artifacting and there's a lot of just like delay. And then sometimes it would just hit a snag in the Wi-Fi and it would just be kind of frozen for a few seconds and then it would come back. And same with the Vita. Like I did the trial for PS Now and played Uncharted 2 streaming to my Vita, right? And I was like, okay, let's see how this is. And like just the latency and the input and the lag, it just put me off it completely, right? And I've tried a bunch of different streaming services. I've done the free trial for Stadia, and that has never been good either. Like I just don't think we're there still with this technology. Like it's competent, but I just don't. It's not a good experience still. I don't think any company has a good experience with streaming. And as someone who's very sensitive to frame rate as well as resolution, like playing PC games breaks your brain, right? Like having 1440p, 144 FPS. Has destroyed me to the point where like I was playing what was it, what's the game that Ubisoft made that was Breath of the Wild but wasn't, it was called Gods and Monsters and then they changed
much better name, Immortals
Phoenix Rising. I was playing that and it was a terrible experience through Stadia and I'm like, this is artifacty and chunky and bad and I hate it. Which just makes me, when I look at the PS3 it just makes me think, well, you might as well remove that because that's pointless. I don't give a shit about that. Like, it's going to be a bad experience. Sure, maybe you can play Metal Gear Solid 4 finally on a thing that isn't actually a PS3, but it's going to be a terrible version of it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm much more fortunate with my experience of it because I was using the PC app and I played through Catherine and I had no trouble with that apart from like I wandered off at some point, so my dog needed something or whatever, and I came back. It was like, oh no, you were away for a couple of minutes, you've been kicked out, you got to join again. Damn, and like I said, I played some Bloodborne on there and I didn't have any issues, but that's the biggest problem is one person can have no issues, the next person can have all the issues. Like the consistency on it is all over the place. And it is frustrating because there are games that are kind of stuck there that haven't been ported, but maybe that's the only way they're going to get through it is by porting those games, like remaking them or whatever, like they have with like Uncharted Collection and stuff like that, which is a shame because I would love to replay so many games that I don't want to dig out my PS3 for. But
the PS3 like it's an interesting generation just because there was a good amount of Sony exclusive games on there, right? Like it was in that era where I guess a lot of people were playing 360, but interestingly enough, it was kind of the era where Sony were building their catalog to a point where by PS4 they had this stable that they could kind of burst out the gate with. And they even had loads of interesting experiments, like stuff like Puppeteer, stuff like Starhawk, and like Tokyo Jungle, like these weird Japanese games, which I think honestly we're not going to get a lot of anymore because a lot of Japan studio stuff has shut down, which is a bummer. But it's great to be able to access that stuff, right? Like I don't think you can play Puppeteer anywhere else. Like it was a PS3 exclusive, it came out, that's it. Like there's no modern version of it, there's no PC version of it. So the only way to play those games is now through this service, and this service just isn't, it's just not quite there. Which is a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the only, like, I used Stadia for a bit, and when I had it on my PC, it was fine. But I tried to use it on TV downstairs, it wasn't. I used it on my phone, it was fine. It was a weird one. But that is also dependent on like my missus not watching anything, sort of thing. She just has to sit there on, in complete darkness and not do anything, otherwise it would die. And it was a similar sort of experience with the Xbox streaming as well, because I think we were playing Gang Beasts together, and for it wasn't on PC Game Pass, but it was on like console Game Pass, and I'm like, well, I'm on PC, I don't want to dig out my Xbox, so I tried streaming it, and it was not fun. Sort of thing.
Especially with like games like that where it's a lot more Twitch movement based,
a lot more reactive.
like,
anything competitive is done. Anything
like fighting games, for example. Like I can't imagine doing a fighting game through a service like this.
God, no.
Like
we're talking about like just pissing about and playing like Mario Kart and Smash online and stuff like that. I'm like, maybe skip Smash, because I don't know how well that will,
Mario Kart, it's definitely better. They've improved it. I remember playing Smash Brawl with my friends back in the day, and we just gave up because it was so agonizingly bad. Wii U was improved, and I think the Switch game is like the best it's been, but still compromised, right? It's still like you flip a coin, and sometimes I'll be playing with Bally and it'll be like, okay, tonight is perfect, it's great, it's smooth. Next time we play, it'll just be a slideshow, and it's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It will just decide that this is what it's going to be this time. And it's still that's the problem with, I think, that online in particular, and a lot of Nintendo's online stuff. Just there's no consistency there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, they have specified with the premium that new PS games will not be coming day and date, because there's still a lot of value in their games, which makes sense because they still sell loads. I mean, look at Horizon currently.
Right, exactly. It's $70 and people are still buying it day one, And Sony don't want to lose out on that revenue stream. It doesn't make sense, because as soon as you start having people subscribing to, I think that's the difference between Microsoft and Sony, maybe at this point at the moment, in terms of the output of first party stuff, is that Sony's first party stuff, if they lose that revenue stream, is going to be a much bigger hit to the company than Microsoft is. So.
But equally, it's the kind of Schrodinger's cat with it, because that could be the thing that swings it to become more successful than Game Pass as well, because of the standard of quality that they have consistently hit with these first party games. That could be the thing that makes people go, who needs Game Pass when I'm getting like this curated, incredible sort of HBO kind of experience to like the Netflix of Game Pass. You can have both. You can still enjoy both, obviously. But they have said that maybe, but probably not, sort of thing.
It's one of those things where if the tide starts changing, and if they need to, right? If Game Pass just becomes better and better and better, and no one cares about this service, then they might have to turn the faucet on that and be like, okay, well, we're gonna finally do it. But until then, I think, well, the other thing about Game Pass, which is interesting to me, right, is that there are so many day one games that are not Microsoft published games, right? So many indie games, like Tunic is a great example of it is day one. Here you go, play it. Amazing.
And that was out of nowhere as well. That wasn't announced before. It was just you know what it is.
And even stuff like Death's Door, a lot of people were like, okay, this isn't on Game Pass. What's up with that? Because it's a Microsoft game. It's not on
that
Game
was
Pass.
weird.
Then, like 5 months later, it's like, it's on Game Pass now. So that causes other problems, right? It causes problems of like, well, people won't buy indie games day one because they just know it's going to be on Game Pass, right? So they have no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, Sean
but
does
again,
it
that's
now.
why people subscribe to the service.
Sean does it now with anything that's not Sony exclusive. If it's like third party AAA, he's like, well, I'll probably wait for it to go on Game Pass.
Right, like Guardians of the
Which-
Galaxy came to the service
Yeah.
like not a few months after.
Yeah.
You know, I bought that game in December after everyone was
Same.
chatting about how good it was, and like
Yeah.
I don't regret that, because like I got it for like 20 quid on the Epic store, their stupid ridiculous 10 quid off sale, and it was amazing. Like that was my whole Christmas, was just 20 hours of that game. It was fantastic. Absolutely loved the game. But if I'd waited, then I could have just played it on Game Pass. So it is one of those things where it is kind of changing people's buying habits, I think. And if Sony have this service where the games that go on it are just all old games, and there's nothing like, when they add stuff to it, is it going to be like, oh, here's the new indie game that's just come out on PlayStation, right? Or is it going to be, well, this Chicory's been out for 12 months now, let's just put it on there because people play it.
I fully expect that you won't get the top tier of PlayStation exclusive on their day one, but I think if we get another Days Gone sort of level, or something of that kind of ilk, I fully expect that can be a day one game, kind of like they do with PlayStation Plus sometimes. Like they will just like, day one a game on that.
Destruction All Stars, I guess it's not first party technically, but it's like, or is it? I can't remember.
I think
like by
that
a studio
one is, but like they were like, oh, it's gonna be 70 quid, and then they actually saw the game and were like,
nope.
You can have it for free. Sorry. Or like oh damn it, what was it called? Oddworld something.
Right, yeah.
The latest Oddworld. Soulstorm.
Yeah.
That went day one on there, which made me very happy because I love those games. But I fully expect that sort of level, and like maybe up to a mid, like I said, like Days Gone sort of level will potentially end up being a day one on there. So you do have some sort of immediate, new shiny content on there.
Then I guess the question becomes like, what if that's just what the base PlayStation Plus is anyway, right? Because that's what they've been doing, is they've been putting those games on regular PlayStation Plus. Maybe it's a thing. I kind of imagine it in a way of like, okay, so base PlayStation Plus, the regular, Essential it's called. Maybe you put a game on there day one, and then after the month it's supposed to be in there, it then moves to the extra tier, right? So if you have extra, you keep having access to it, and then it goes away for being redeemed by people for that month, right? Like I can see that happening, where every month with the 2 games in PlayStation Plus, it then kind of moves to the next tier essentially, and kind of becomes part of the catalog almost.
That's what I thought they were going to do with the PlayStation, the PS Plus collection, with like Persona 5 and stuff like that. I thought that's kind of what they were going to do with that. So quite possibly, maybe that is how they add to it. But we've been seeing, I guess, with the way that PlayStation Now was, we have been seeing more higher tier games like Avengers going on there, and stuff like that. So I it's kind of a wait and see on it, I think, because with anything PlayStation does, where they adapt something to their own, they are going to do something different, and they do have. And it does it actually say? It doesn't say anything here, but they do also have like the VR stuff as well.
I was going to say, that's an interesting wrinkle, because with PSVR 2 coming up, they did a thing I think last year where they gave away a bunch of free VR games during the pandemic. Which I redeemed. I redeemed all those, even though I don't have a PSVR. I'm like, well, I might as well add them to my account. That's me with everything, though, right? Like, I just redeem everything regardless. Epic Games free game every week. Redeem that. Always redeem my Twitch Prime free games. Like, I'm just drowning in games, and I know it. I know I will never finish every game I own. I am resigned to that fact, but it doesn't stop me from redeeming all of them. But I recently got a Oculus Quest 2, and
awesome.
Things amazing. I think I got the first wireless aspect of it is just such a game changer. I'm curious about how PSVR 2 will be received. Obviously, it's going to have like high resolution screens, and it's only going to be one wire, which, if I'm playing Half-Life Alyx, I do have to have a wire anyway, because it kind of hooks up to the PC to play that, which is, it's a little annoying just having the wire, but it's still like playable. It's much better than the original VR setups where you had like
all
all
the
boxes and stuff and so many wires, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, it's made me think a lot about like what can Sony bring and how can both Oculus and Sony kind of lift each other up with VR stuff and make it so that, you know, we get a lot more of those experiences generally. And I do think that having VR games as a part of the PS Plus catalog in some way, whether it's the extra tier or the essential tier, is going to be something that they leverage, because as you were saying, those games feel a lot more similar to like a Days Gone, where it's like not the biggest AAA thing, but it is an interesting thing. And that could be something that convinces someone, right? Like, oh, I'm already subscribed to the service, I have access to these VR games. Well, you know, that VR thing just came out recently. It's maybe on sale. Maybe I'll pick up a PSVR 2 and then Sony get another sale of PSVR 2. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And like they have announced that, for instance, Horizon is going to get a VR spin-off sort of thing.
For sure.
Which we'll see. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, they do that with more and more of their first party stuff, which is more than likely to happen.
It's actually ironic, I think, that because they showed the initial thing of Horizon, it's them like in a canoe, like going, and you see a tall neck. And I'm like, well, the canoe thing should probably be God of War, shouldn't it? Because that's much more associated with that game.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they will have a God of War experience of some kind for VR.
I'd be very surprised if they didn't. Yeah. I mean, I fully expect they'll do something with Last of Us. They'll probably do something with anything that they have that blows up.
God, I couldn't do a Last of Us VR thing. That sounds terrifying to me.
They did Resident Evil, man. They did Resident Evil.
Yeah. And I never want to play it. I don't never want to play that game. That sounds too scary.
Yeah, I didn't. I played it in just traditional way. I was always curious. But what overall, what are your? I think you did already kind of say it, but what do you think overall about like the tiers and how the tiers pan out and stuff like that? What are your kind of overall feelings of it?
I think there's an audience here who didn't know about this and has no idea, and I think they'll be more interested in this, right? Like a more casual audience who are like, oh wow, that this feels like a good deal if you want to play a lot of games and you haven't caught up on a lot of things. But I think for me, it comes down to what are the games. I think that's the real sticking point here. Is great, you've announced these tiers, we know what's going to be in them generally, but let's get to specifics, right? Like, I don't think I can really make a value judgment on it until I see what are the 400 games coming to PS4 and or the PS4 and PS5 games that are coming. Are those games that were already on PlayStation now and are therefore not very interesting as a result of that? Or are they going to throw in things that are a bit more kind of high quality, high caliber, like more modern stuff, like stuff that has just come out in the last couple of years that is on that service? And same with the PS1 and PS2 games. I think they've always had a very thin lineup when it comes to those. I remember them putting out some PS2 games on PlayStation 4, and there were not that many of them. Like there was a handful of selected. Feels very much like Nintendo, where it's like, we'll just give you a few, and then we're just going to stop. We're just going to stop giving you any. I never
understood why they didn't do, because like PS3 had so many collections of PS2 games. They had so many collections, like Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, and Sly Cooper, and that. I never understood why those didn't get brought forward on the PS4.
For sure. Yeah, those would make sense. But I think that's the other thing, right? Is like when you're thinking about PS2 games, a lot of those, because they had PS3 collections, like there exists better ways to play the God of War trilogy or the God of War PS2 games or the Ratchet games or the Sly collection, right? There exists those PS3 versions to play, but the versions that you're going to get here are going to be the PS2 originals. So they're not going to be the best way to play those games, right? If you're going to be playing Jak 2, it's going to be the PS2 version of Jak 2, not the collection version, because that's a PS3 game, right? Like,
that's a good point. I don't know.
They have to be, right? Because those games were made to run on a PS3, and therefore, you would have to stream the collection version. If you wanted to get the better version of Jak 2, you would have to stream the collection of Jak and Daxter on the PS3 versus going back to the old Jak 2 on PS2, which is inherently just going to be a worse version of a game they already have a better version of. So it's
No, absolutely, absolutely.
It's madness.
You brought something up there that also it made me remember a point I was meant to bring up. So like, I think they've said Ghost of Tsushima, for instance, is going to be on there, and all this is available on PC as well. They haven't released Ghost of Tsushima natively on PC yet. What does that do to that market of stuff?
I don't think too much, because the stuff on PC will all be streamed, presumably, right? None of this is
I would
going to be
imagine so.
downloadable.
Yeah.
None of it's going to be downloadable on PC. I think you've been able to stream a lot of their stuff on PC anyway, and I don't think it's hurt them too badly, right? Like, I think you look at the Steam sales for Horizon and for God of War and for Days Gone on PC, and those games are crushing it on Steam. Like, people they want them. They're ravenous for those games because they are these big Sony exclusives that have never been on a PC before. Now they're the best place you can play those games. And it's awesome. But I think that means that a lot of people are happy to wait, PC players are like, great, Sony are bringing these over. I'm sure Ghost of Tsushima and Spider-Man, like all these games will be on PC within the next couple of years, likely. So, even if they are available in a streamable version, I think most people are just happy to wait, until they come to their preferred platform in a much better version, and ultimately, like, if Sony were to improve this service, right, and do what Microsoft is doing, which is having an app on PC that has access to Game Pass stuff, if Sony also decided, okay, well, now we're going to have a thing on PC where you can download all of these, it opens them up to another market, right? Because, to be honest, like, if I had the ability to like download PS1 and PS2 games and play them through some service on my PC, as opposed to emulating them, I might actually do it, because it's just a more convenient, easier way to do it. It doesn't risk me going to dodgy websites and getting viruses, finding fucking a version of, I don't know, Klonoa or whatever I've been playing recently. And I think that's like an ideal world to be in, but whether they can pull it off, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they're as interested in like the engineering side of getting these things to work. Just like, Microsoft done all the work for backwards compatibility. Sony doesn't seem like they want to or have.
Yeah, and I think this is the start of them being like, oh shit, maybe we should. And we know from all the Apple leaks that Epic did actually reach out to Sony and be like, yo, put some of that on our store and we'll foot that side of it. And I wish they did. That would have been so cool. I think that would have been a good partnership for them, because then that's, they're killing it on Steam, like you say, anyway. But they could have had a dedicated place on the Epic Store, which some people wouldn't like because they don't like the Epic Store, but it's like,
I the Epic Store stuff just goes over my head. I'm just like,
same.
Look, man, I have like 150 free games. I'm not complaining.
No, exactly.
I don't care. It's great.
There is at the bottom of this, there is another thing called PlayStation Plus Deluxe, which says it's a lower price compared to Premium. It includes a catalog of beloved classic games.
But that's just if you don't have cloud streaming, right? There's just downloads if you don't have access, like good internet connection to stream stuff.
Basically. So that it says select markets, so that will be the markets that, like I said, have terrible internet.
Right, exactly.
But I think it would be a nice tier to have everywhere. I think because people don't like.
Because even in the US, like there are places there where internet is really bad.
It's very patchy, very, very patchy.
Makes sense.
But I think, like you said, overall, it is just a bit, fine.
It's just kind of like fine. Like I totally see why this is a blog post, because it's not very exciting. Like
100%.
For some people, it's going to be cool. And I don't know. I feel like those people are people who maybe don't have Game Pass or don't have multiple platforms. They just have a PlayStation, and that's what they play their stuff on. And that's cool for them, right? But I think for a lot of us who are very deep in the hobby, it's just like, okay, well, I want to know more. Like, are there any for you, like any PS1, PS2, PSP games that you're clamoring for? I don't know how many like old games you really play, or is that something you're that interested in?
I want so. PlayStation Now has always interested me, because from the minute it was originally announced, there was an emphasis on being able to play the older games, and that's something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to, I've got a bunch of PS2 games here,
right?
But like I've always just wanted easy access to old games, and that's like part of the reason I love the Nintendo Online stuff, because it's easy access to a bunch of old games. Even like just for discoverability stuff, like I just want to play a random, and like now I'm going to be doing more gameplay stuff for my channel. I want to just play a random stupid game and have some fun and like dick about with stuff.
I've discovered a bunch of stuff through the Nintendo Online service, like
exactly.
Yeah, there's loads of weird. There's like a game where you're a fireman putting out fires on the Super Nintendo that I'd never heard of. I was like, this is great. There's no game like this that exists. You know, the Genesis stuff has been great, and I've never played Banjo-Kazooie before, so that's on my hit list of the N64 stuff to play through Banjo-Kazooie. The first time I'm playing that handheld, I think I played just the tutorial area, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Right, so it's great to kind of open the floodgates to people. And the way Nintendo is doing it is much more curated. Like with Sony, it's going to be, we're going to dump 340 old games on you. Which actually, when I think about it, like there's a lot of old games. And I guess
considering
the question is how split they are, right? Between PS3. Because if it's like 250 of them are PS3 games and then the other 100 of the rest, that would suck because the PS3 ones are the ones that are the worst versions because they're cloud streamed.
Absolutely. That, like I said, that is the bit that kind of interests. And like, I already own PlayStation now anyway, so I get just moved over automatically, and you know, it doesn't cost me anymore. If anything, is gonna work out cheaper because it's only like £14 a month, sort of thing,
right?
Instead of paying like I think it's about £17-18 that I'm paying for both.
Oh wow,
sort of thing. So it's going to work out cheaper, and technically, I've seen this online a bit. Technically, yes, it is cheaper than the highest tier Game Pass, I guess. I think I'm not even sure if that's completely accurate, but like they're offering different things, and we don't know. And it is kind of in that kind of same sort of boat that Game Pass was when it started. It's like this sounds cool, but like what does that actually mean? And obviously, we've seen Game Pass kind of do a really good job with all of that sort of stuff, especially once they started adding Bethesda stuff and stuff like that. It's just launched stratospherically,
and now they're going to have Activision Blizzard stuff as well. It's just it's going to become crazy. And there will be, like, I think that's the position Microsoft want to be in, right? Is every month there's a big game from one of their studios, and I think at this rate, at the amount of studios they have now, they have the juice to do it, right? Like they can put out a big game every month, every year. And that's, I think for Sony, that's scary, right? Like if they have a big drop and that's the thing that I think would push Sony to maybe, go and put their first party stuff.
I think the only thing that really stops them is like Xbox don't have that quality bar yet. But there is all the potential in the world that they can have that. They made a good start, and like I think we were discussing it either last week or the week before or whatever. But like me and Jordan were talking about it, and it was like they don't have it yet, and what they do have that they have put out high quality is the stuff they've always been putting out at high quality.
Right,
like Halo's doing well, even though there's a lot of issues on half of it. Forza's very good, always has been, sort of thing. So they are putting out high quality stuff, but it's not new high quality stuff, sort of thing.
Right.
But on the horizon, they have a lot coming, and if they start pumping that out at a consistently good quality, that's when you're really going to have Sony shaking, because that's what Sony's known for. Sony aren't known for putting out loads and loads of games. They're putting out their catered high quality stuff. And I think that's where the biggest difference is between like the two things. This for PlayStation is really an additive thing. It adds to what they're offering. Whereas with Microsoft, it's their entire thing currently, because that's what they had to do to get a foothold to fight back, sort of thing. And it kind of, it feels like it's additive as well. It doesn't feel like that because it hasn't had this big announcement where it's getting, this is coming day one, this is coming day one, and it hasn't, it's a blog post sort of thing. It does feel like it's an extra thing. It doesn't even have the same amount of attention that PlayStation VR had on it.
Right. I imagine most regular people who own a PlayStation will find out about this by going to the store one day and seeing, oh, you can upgrade your PlayStation Plus, and they'll be like, oh, that's interesting. Let's have a look and see. Oh, I can get some old games. Oh, that's curious. That's, I think most people will come across it that way because that's just how things work, and 100%. Not everyone pays attention to a blog post from Jim Ryan like we do. So I think for me, I didn't own a PS2. It's the only PlayStation I haven't owned, and ironically, being the best-selling one. But there's lots of cool stuff on there that I would be interested in checking out, and it depends like what is it they're going to put on the service. I think for me, personally speaking, I'm very into going back into the history of games, and especially like I've become a bigger fan of RPGs over the year, like Japanese RPGs,
yeah.
and so the PS1 is like a gold mine for JRPGs. There's so many classic like Vagrant Story, Valkyrie Profile, Suikoden, like all these big name like niche JRPGs, which frankly I recently got a kind of retro handheld. It's an Ambonic device. It's like a kind of mini, like almost GBA sized handheld. And that was my intended way to play a lot of these old RPGs. Cause like on my commute to work, it fits my pocket perfectly. It's not like a Switch where I have to like put it in a backpack or whatever. I can just pop it out on a train, grind out and get through some of these games. And it's been a really cool way to play those old JRPGs. But you know, if Sony are providing access to those in a cool way that's accessible and easy and has extra features, yeah, that's an option as well. But I think, you know, a lot of people are maybe going down the emulation route right now just because they haven't been offering it in a good way. So
yeah, and I that will still be a thing because you know they're not going to be able to get everything onto this for, you know, the same reason that like we hadn't until recently seen like Banjo-Kazooie come back up, or like GoldenEye and stuff like this, where you know it's all licenses and annoying stuff like that. And it is going to be super interesting for people like us that do love a good retro game every now and then.
Yeah.
Because you know that's a good chunk of the reason I love playing on PC, because that market, that stuff never goes away on PC. It's just always like you could buy a game from like GOG, like keeps popping up and telling me that Metal Gear is on offer. I'm like, I know, I'm going to buy it at some point. I know, I'm not ready for it yet. I'm going to go back and play it at some point. I know. But having a much more accessible way to play, you know, PlayStation's equivalent of what Xbox is doing is just, and Nintendo to a degree as well, is the promise of what PlayStation Now was for me all those years ago when they first started talking about it. And I really hope they can just deliver on it. And I know, obviously, other than the PS3 stuff, there's going to be streaming. I really hope that the rest of it, because have they actually specified that it's download options as well? Yeah, so
there's download options for everything else.
Because there's a bunch of games I remember playing, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me what that game is, sort of thing. I just want to rediscover so much. Like that,
because when you're a kid, you're just like round at a friend's house and you're playing some random game, and you like have this hazy memory of it, but you have no idea what it is. And
Exactly. And like, you know, stuff like the demo disc. There were so many games on the demo disc.
Oh my god!
I've started collecting those because they're fantastic. Nice. I love those. There's some absolute bangers. Like, oh man, if they put Toy Story 2 on here.
Oh hell yes, man! That game is so good.
Exactly.
That game is like the PS1 Toy Story 2 game is incredible. Like in a way that licensed games are not anymore. I mean, there aren't licensed games anymore, really. So,
no.
But yeah, that game was awesome. I love that game.
But like, there's so many games like that where you know you would have to, you know, go to a CEX and hope that they've got it, or like go on eBay. But like, if it's all just available there, you know, obviously not all of it's going to be available there. But if it's a catered, curated sort of thing, like like Nintendo was, like you say, that they could have some really really cool libraries and stuff, and it would just be awesome to be able to access that sort of thing. Like, will they have Metal Gear?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess
the other thing, right, is like what Microsoft has been doing is enhancing all of their old games. Like, we're going to put it in 4K. We're going to put 120 FPS. I don't think Sony's going to do that. I think they're just going to put these games on here. So that's the other aspect of it that's a little bit maybe worrying. It's like, okay, it's a PSP game. You're going to stretch this PSP game over a 70-inch TV? You're really going to do that, Sony? I think the answer is absolutely. Yes, we will.
Did you play the Parappa the Rapper remake or remaster?
I did not. No.
It's horrible.
Oh,
it's horrible, and I worry that's what it's going to kind of look like. Because it is just, some of it's been sharpened up and stuff like that, but then I think it's the cutscenes that are just really old looking, and they've got them literally boxed, and it looks horrible. But I don't know, because Nintendo they don't really do anything to the old stuff, do they? It's just kind of
so obviously they add stuff like rewind and save states, and they up the resolution, right? So like you can play Super Mario World on an HD TV and it looks like it's 1080p. I think it is 1080p probably. So yeah, they do kind of up-resing and they have all those features, which I think is probably a bare minimum for what Sony would do, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Up-resing, having the ability to rewind stuff, the ability to save state is I think kind of crucial for a lot of these older games that are just otherwise a little too frustrating to go back to, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, imagine like trying to do that with like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or something like that.
Yeah,
like, that would be
sure.
a pain in the ass. But I hope it kind of also, because PlayStation have a really weird history. They've got a lot of weird games hidden back there, and I want to see some of those get some light again, because like some of those weird games are really cool. There is just like there's a lot of fun about PlayStation that's kind of gotten lost a bit recently ever since Jim Ryan's kind of come over and he's got business.
Yeah.
I want the weird stuff to come back, and like maybe this, you know, they'd be like, oh right, cool, like loads of people are downloading this sort of game, maybe we should look at investing time into those sort of games again.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised this is happening under the watch of Jim Ryan, because of like his previous comments about stuff like Gran Turismo and being like, who wants to look at those PS1, PS2 games? They're garbage. Fuck those. That's his attitude towards them. So maybe that says why this is a blog post, right? Because he's like, well, these motherfuckers want their PS1 games. Look, I'll give it to you, but I won't like it, you know? That's kind of his attitude.
No, absolutely. And like, part of me was super surprised that they were doing this at all with like the comments of Jim Ryan, but like I think that's a testament to how well, I mean, like Nintendo have done it. That's a testament to how well Game Pass is doing and how much it is changing the minds of people.
It's just we live in a subscription world now. That's the thing.
We do.
Ultimately, and companies know that subscriptions. Well, the thing is, subscriptions are great for companies because it's repeated revenue, right? Like if you are, you know, every year you're like, well, we need to hit this target. If you have a consistent source of money coming in every month, every year, it's just so much safer for companies, right? And so that's why you see everyone shifting towards it, because for them, even though they might be losing out, right? Microsoft might be losing out on sales of Forza and Halo. At the end of the day, the consistent, steady revenue that is still growing and growing is a much safer bet for them. And it makes a lot more sense. So
absolutely. And it's a much harder decision to be like, nah, I'm not going to buy that game, than, you know, there's steps involved in canceling a subscription. So people are going to put it off. People, you know, even though it is simply going on a website and being like, nah, cool.
And people, you know, they always make it harder for you. And then you get there, they're like, well, how about 3 extra months for free? So that's what I always do. Is immediately go to cancel the subscription. They're like, oh, wait, we'll give you more.
And like, I know a couple of people who've got like, or I don't know if they still have it, but they had a PlayStation Now glitch where they don't pay for it. It's just,
holy shit.
And I'm like, why didn't that happen to me? Why? You don't play games as much as I do. But like that's going to change as well. Like people aren't going to have that. And like, I do wonder how smooth the transition is going to be from people like me that have PlayStation Now. I'm curious to see what that kind of looks like, because obviously it's going to have to talk to each other because they are currently two separate things. So it is going to have to, I don't know, talk to each other, and you know they are going to have to collapse it all in one. So I do wonder how smooth that's all going to be in the grand scheme. But it is kind of it's PlayStation Plus. And I think like
it's more.
I think where it was so obvious how they had to do it as well, I think plays into how it is just kind of that's exactly what we were expecting, sort of thing. So I think
it almost feels like they were forced into it, right? It was almost like they were like, we don't want to do this, but Microsoft has their thing, and we got to compete somehow. So
and like the way that PlayStation Now was as well, it regardless, I think it always felt like it was going to happen sooner or later, because it's. I do wonder if in like 6 months' time it's an easy look how many subscribers we've got, because we've just amalgamated the two, and PlayStation Plus has like over 50 million, I think it was last time I checked.
It's a lot. And
then like PS Now only had like 2 or 3 mil sort of thing. So it's an easy like, we've got more than Game Pass, but it's not gonna. It's not the same. It's not the same. Like it. I don't know. It is going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But like at the minute, it is just kind of yeah, kind of saw that
Yeah,
coming.
you can see that their priorities are different, right? This is so
Absolutely.
PlayStation centric, right? There's no talk of being on mobile. There's no talk of being on PC aside from the cloud streaming stuff,
Yeah.
right? It's all
Yeah,
very
yeah.
much like you have to be in the PlayStation ecosystem in
Yeah.
order to get this stuff. And that's the total opposite of what Microsoft want to do. Microsoft want to be on PlayStation, right? Let alone be on
They do.
every other device in the world. So it's just an attitude thing and a kind of positioning thing. So
I do wonder, because I still fully believe that Game Pass will be on PlayStation at some point.
yeah, could take a decade, but I think it'll happen.
I do actually wonder if this speeds things up somewhat. Because because of how PlayStation centric this actually is, because there's not really any mention of anything outside of PlayStation. There's not mention of like any like other AAA titles or other not like third party stuff.
Right.
So I do wonder if that kind of, I don't know obviously their internal thoughts on it, of course, but like I do wonder if it does just kind of speed stuff up, and how curated this is, I wonder if it does kind of be like, look, this, we'll take Game Pass, but this is what we want. We want your equivalent of this. We only want the Xbox stuff. It has to be heavily curated, otherwise we're going to lose money. So I do wonder if that, because obviously they'll take a chunk of the money from that as well. So it's just another win. And if they do have like sort out a fully PlayStation PC thing, then they can have it everywhere, probably not on Xbox, because Xbox are moving to subscription. I wouldn't be surprised if they stop doing consoles at some point, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then PlayStation is that middle where they still have consoles, but they are doing a streaming thing as well for older stuff. So I do wonder if this does kind of speed that side of stuff up, and it does, like I said, hopefully it can lead to working together a bit more, and then maybe being able to sort out the PS3 stuff, and it just works better for everybody, because then everybody's kind of working together. They're all aiming for different things, because Nintendo's aiming for a very different place than PlayStation is. PlayStation are not aiming for the same place that Xbox clearly are now. I think on the whole it leads to some interesting conversations, because they are all so focused on different things. I think it does open up a lot more collaborative stuff potentially. And that would just be cool. It would just be cool.
The most different all three companies have been, I think,
exactly
ever, right? Like if you go back to the PS2, Xbox, GameCube days, they were all basically kind of the same box, doing similar things. It was the last time Nintendo kind of competed on a power level, right? And so I think since then they're all in totally different spaces at this point, right? They're all doing completely different things. So it's the most interesting and most different they've all been, I think, in the history of all of them. So
because like it kind of just reminds me of like the Netflix Marvel shows, because like I discovered about a year ago you can just buy those on Amazon. They are just
really
they were just available on Amazon, and I'm like, well, why maybe we can still do that here. You can have like you can have your curated Xbox in the same way that we've got the curated PlayStation, curated Nintendo, and obviously Nintendo's not going to be anywhere else. Nintendo, I think,
never until their dying breath will
they would have to be bought out, and
exactly.
I can't see that happening either. But I can fully see a sort of handshake thing between Xbox and PlayStation sort of thing, where it's not, hey, you can have my game, you can have my game. It is their streaming services are available, maybe less so on the Xbox side, because like I said, they are going more of the streaming service. But like Game Pass will still be on PlayStation. I don't think that really changes much here. I think if anything, it might just speed it up, because it's like, this is exactly what we want. Like I said, we want the curated Game Pass, where it's just games you cannot get on PlayStation, so it doesn't affect us in the same way they would have to do with Nintendo with Game Pass wherever to go onto the Switch, which I still don't think will ever happen.
There's a bunch of like power things that's an issue with that as well.
It would just be xCloud, I think, on the Switch. Exactly. But it, like I said, it opens up a lot of interesting conversations that can happen around it. Whether that's stuff that's actually happening behind the doors, we don't know, and probably won't ever know until it actually happens. But I don't know, there is some interesting stuff. And like Microsoft don't have a VR headset, for instance.
Right.
So, if they are able to make it over onto PlayStation, that opens up a kind of new avenue for them. They could start developing stuff and become a bit more of a publisher and a platform than a rival almost.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think, there are a lot of worries about consolidation and, all these streaming services, but there are some kind of interesting new avenues that they open up as well, I think. So it's not all doom and gloom by any stretch. And it is, like I said, it's super early for this. So we don't know what's coming. I fully expect maybe next month, maybe in May, there'll be another kind of, this is what to expect, I think. But who knows at this point? It's all weird at the moment.
So you kind of mentioned you obviously have both now and Plus, and you're probably just gonna get this right at the highest tier, probably at the premium.
Yeah, because like I said, like I want those old games. That's the thing I wanted. And like there was a good part of me a while ago that was like, oh, I can actually buy, like, I think it was all the Tomb Raider games that were just available on Steam. And I was like, I could just bin all this off and just fully go PC sort of thing. And like,
there's a question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for me, I've not, like, I hadn't touched my PS5 in I think 6 months. It's getting a lot of dust. Like, it's ironic because I think that's the opposite for a lot of people of like, that's their main console. They play everything on it, but you know, it's squarely in third place for me behind PC and Nintendo. And PC obviously encompasses a lot of Microsoft stuff. It's so for me, I don't think I've paid for PlayStation Plus since like 2014 or something. So it's probably not going to get me to convert, especially like given all the other services out there and all that stuff. But we'll see how it does. I'm definitely curious to see what the games are more so than anything else, and if that makes me move in that direction at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think it would take for you to buy into, I don't know, this at any level? I guess it would have to be the higher levels, given you don't use your PS5 so often.
Yeah, I think for me to get on board with a Sony subscription service, it would be their first party stuff day one. That would be it, right? Because I'm going to buy those, right? And even stuff like I haven't got Horizon yet because I didn't love the first game, and wasn't wanting to pay full price for it. So I will play it at some point, probably later this year when it goes down in price. But if it was there on a service day one, I would sign up for that service, right? Because then it's much easier for me to just be in there and playing it. And I will play every Sony first party game for the most part. Like, love God of War, huge fan of Spider-Man, really like what they did with Ghost of Tsushima. Like, I really like their style of game, and a big fan of it. But for me, it wouldn't make sense for me to just, if it's something like a Days Gone, I'm not going to get that straight away, right? So if it is included in a service, that's the thing that gets me. So I'm just waiting for them to tip over the edge to do that, if they ever do.
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it does fully depend what it kind of looks like on day one for me, because I am not averse to getting rid of subscription. I've done it loads of times. Like the amount of times I've re-signed up to like Netflix and stuff like that. It does, it does kind of depend what it looks like. It does say here at launch, we plan to include titles like Death Stranding, God of War, Spider-Man, Mortal Kombat, and Returnal. Returnal, I think, is a really interesting one there.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That's one that a lot of people wouldn't have played, and one that they should, because Returnal is fantastic.
Yeah, great things.
So I really hope that they do in May, just before this launches, be like, this is what we're opening with. This is how easy it's going to be to transfer over, and just have something that kind of entices people a bit more, because like I said, a lot of people aren't going to look at this blog post, put a video out and just have a do a little sizzle kind of reel of what to expect and what's going to be on there.
I'll tell you what, I think the way that I could get into this is probably on a monthly basis of like, okay, Returnal's on there. It's still really expensive, but if I pay 18 quid or whatever it is to get access, or 15 quid, then I just play Returnal for the month and then I cancel the subscription. Like I did that for with EA's service. They have
I did that. Yeah.
EA Play, but they have like a premium tier, which is like you get every game day one. And so when Jedi Fallen Order came out, I was like, all right, let's do that for a month. I'll beat the game in a week, which I did, and then just cancel the subscription. And it was great. I played Jedi Fallen Order day one for like 15 quid. Perfect. Yeah. I'm never going to play the game again. Or if I do, I'll probably end up getting for free through some service, because like Epic will give it away or Twitch will give it away.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a no-brainer. So I think actually, if I am to engage with the service, it's to do stuff like that, where it's like, they put Horizon Forbidden West finally on the service, like in, I don't know, May of next year or whenever they do.
Sure.
Then I might be like, I'll just play it for the month and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's what I did with PlayStation Now. I did it with Catherine, because they had Catherine on there. And I really wanted to play it. So I jumped in, got it. And then I was like, actually, there's a couple of other things on here that I want to play. So it's very easy. And I know a lot of people do that with Game Pass as well.
Yeah, so I got the season pass for Apex Legends for doing that thing for a month. So I was like, I ended up playing a bunch more Apex because of that, right?
Sure. I do wonder, just as a last bit on this, because we saw, I think it was last year, they had a trial of like the movie side of stuff in with PlayStation Plus. I think I want to say it was in the Netherlands. I can't remember. Okay. I do wonder if that's something they will add to this. With Uncharted coming and stuff like that,
their focus on like TV shows with Last of Us and movie and supposedly Twisted Metal happening and stuff like that.
That's got Anthony Mackie attached to it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
A weird choice, man. A dead IP that like they haven't touched in a decade. That is a little bit questionable in this day and age. I don't know.
Well, Destruction All Stars was meant to lead to a new Twisted Metal, but then that didn't do well. But it's meant to be like a comedy series, or so. I'm like, okay. But I do wonder if they, because again, that can be a leg up they have on Game Pass. That like it's a different angle, sort of thing. And I do wonder if that's something they end up attaching to it, having trialed it. Yeah. But I think the trial going very cold and not hearing anything for it probably doesn't, lead to good things. Especially with the Uncharted.
I think the other thing is rights stuff, right? Like,
exactly,
because HBO has Last of Us, and I'm sure like another TV service has, and like Halo's on Paramount for Microsoft, and like all these. I think TV and movies is tricky with rights stuff. Absolutely. So I don't know how they work.
Absolutely, and there is some kind of partnership between Sony and Netflix now for like the next 5 years or something like that as well. So maybe you get, I don't know, a deal on Netflix or something. But it'd be interesting to see what other kind of additive things they add to this. Like with Xbox, you get like a discount on Disney Plus, or you get it for 6 months or whatever it was. It'd be interesting to see what other kind of how it plays with other stuff. But
for sure,
I think as we've said, on the whole, it is kind of whatever at the minute. Like it's not changing too much. It is just kind of pulling everything into one place. And like, granted, it does make it a bit cheaper to have everything rather than having the two services, which has annoyed me for an age. Having it all in one place is going to be nice, and having it a bit cheaper is also going to be nice.
For sure, yeah.
One thing I would like to see them add is like a family plan.
Yeah, that would be sick. Because Microsoft rumored to do that as well, and
I think it's just been confirmed, hasn't it?
Oh, really? Okay.
I think it might have just been confirmed. I might have misread that, but I didn't go into it. But like, I've just taken my PS5 downstairs so my missus could play Horizon, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like it'd be just way nicer if I could be like, fine, because she's happened to use my login as well, so that's my save data just gone, sort of thing.
Ooh,
I was like fine with it. It's like, okay, fine. You want to play it more than I did, to be fair. But like a family plan would be a nice thing, because then you can share games. I like the amount of people who like, they're buying games for their kids, but they want to play games separately and they have to switch users and stuff like that. But the games don't carry across users. It's complicated. I like Nintendo does a family plan. Come on, you could do it.
And they make it so exploitable as well. You can just get a group of 6 friends and be like, let's just
Yes. We were talking about that on a group chat the other day, and I was like, I'm okay. I don't need that, but you guys go ahead, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just split it and make it so easy.
Right.
That would be a nice thing, especially like at these higher price tiers. I think you should definitely. And like, to be fair, I think that's just something they should do anyway. it would just be a nice.
I think so.
I fully expect they will at some point. Same with like the crossplay situation.
Probably after like 2 years when people complain about it enough.
Xbox have just done this. Why aren't you?
Yeah, come on, guys.
I fully expect they will. But on the whole, it's just kind of a wait and see at the minute. It is. Yeah. It hasn't fundamentally changed anything. It's not like strictly their Game Pass. It is just kind of what we've always known it to be. It's just with kind of added bits. And even then, it's not even necessarily added. I think the only thing that kind of stood out to me was that they're adding PS5 games into it as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like seeing Returnal be on there, thinking maybe Demon Souls will be on there, right? Sackboy potentially could be on there as well.
That'd be sick. So I really want to play Sackboy.
I just
haven't yet.
A funny thing, I through work had a code for Sackboy, and it was one of those at the beginning of the generation where it's a PS4/PS5 code.
Yeah.
So you get both when you put it in. Turns out, put it in on my PS4, mind you, went to the PS4 store, put it in so I could get the code for both, and then it just didn't show up, and I was like, what's going on? I had to go to the website, had to go into my account.
Yeah.
And then I realized it had only given me the PS5 version, not the PS4 version. And keep in mind, at this point, I didn't own a PS5.
Yeah,
I didn't have one. So it just gave me the PS5 version. So by the time I actually got my PS5, I actually had it. But it was so weird. Like it was a bizarre thing. So that was crazy.
And we've seen a bunch of that, like with I think it was Call of Duty and stuff like that, where
it was a mess.
It automatically say it to the PS4 one when you're on a PS5. It's like, ooh.
So weird.
It's Sony all the way, isn't it?
What are you going to do?
But no, I mean, like I said, it's going to be interesting, and I am very curious to see. Yeah, like I said, like Sackboy is a perfect example. It's a game I haven't got around to, but I want to check out, sort of thing. And that's going to be the thing that hooks me the most on this. But if it does,
or even stuff like Kena Bridge of Spirits, right, which is an indie game that they published, or Sifu,
for sure.
right? Sifu, Kena are great examples of like smaller, like almost AAA games that they can put on that service, and I think a lot of people will be enticed by it. So absolutely.
And they both live in an interesting, weird place because they're also PC just through Epic as well.
Yes, just through Epic, yeah.
So that they are. I think you're right. I think they are primed for that. To be that day one sort of thing on there. But it's a weird place. I've seen a lot of people being negative about it. I've seen a lot of people hailing this as like the Game Pass killer, and it's neither of those things. It's just it just is. It just exists, or it will exist for that.
Like a Memoir Blue, it just exists.
The thing that's drawn me to it is the older games, but time will tell what it's actually going to pan out and look like. It could just be, exactly what it is. It could just be that people don't, really buy into the higher tails, and it doesn't actually make a difference. It could just be number padding. But who knows? I can't remember if there was a question. There might be a question. I don't know. We're normally at the end, like Jordan asks a question, and we're terrible at remembering if there was a question and what it was.
What was the question?
Yeah, exactly. And they're not here anyway, so I'm not gonna
ask.
So we'll skip over that.
Good.
Have you got anything you would like to plug before we shoot off?
Sure. Yeah, you can. If you want to find me, you can follow me on Twitter at LordNBZ, where mainly I'm tweeting about my cool Elden Ring character who has a scythe and is the Reaper of death/life across the lands between. I just tweeted yesterday about how it's fucking cool animation when she's just like riding on a horse and the scythe is like by her side. It's just like, oh man.
Oh yeah,
sick. I'm just
like you're riding
into
battle.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredible.
Awesome.
So yeah, you can follow me there. I got a podcast. It's Nintendo Life. It's called, and it's you can find it on various places. You search This Nintendo Life and it should pop up. And we're not associated with Nintendo Life. The name was a riff on This American Life, and then we realized, when you search it, Nintendo Life comes up a bunch. But you can find us on podcasting places and all that type of thing. So
I did that once because I can't remember. I think me and Jordan were chatting about the podcast, and I searched it and I was like, Jesus, they got a lot of. Oh wait.
That's Nintendo Life.
That's Nintendo Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it blew me away for a second. I was like, "Whoa, what is?"
Yeah.
Oh, it's very. I love the podcast. It's a great podcast.
Thanks, man.
It's twice a month, right?
It is, yeah. So we do fortnightly, or bi-monthly. Yeah, fortnightly can mean either once every or twice a week or once every 2 weeks. I don't know what.
Yeah, but
makes sense,
bi-monthly is people interpret it different. So
yeah, exactly.
Twice every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
I really enjoyed. I'm terrible at keeping up with podcasts, but when it is one that like comes into my consciousness, sort of thing, I always enjoy listening to it. It's a very, very good one.
I appreciate that.
Especially love the ones where you just talk about Star Wars all the time.
Yeah,
they're fantastic. Love it. I mean, I've got a Darth Vader shirt on today.
Nice.
Yeah, keep an eye on Eat Sleep Games. Like I said, things are changing slightly. I might, because essentially, if you pay attention to the channel, my reviews come out sporadically, and that's because I work full time. And for instance, just finished off Horizon not Zero Dawn, sorry, the newer one, Forbidden West,
yeah.
And it's taken 80 hours to play through, sort of thing.
Wow.
And then I got right on top of that, and then I got a voiceover, and then I got to edit that, and that all
people don't appreciate how long making videos.
Dude, it takes
a process
so long. And like I've been watching a lot of Game Grumps and Markiplier recently, and something in the back of my head just twicked and went, that 80 hours could have been 80 hours of content, sort of thing. It could have just been me pissing about, having a good time, having fun. Because it like I don't get paid for any of this as well, but it does.
Right.
You still get the stress of being like, I haven't put anything out in ages, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I can amend that. Like we've got, Jeff is coming into the fold with his reviews, and he does some fantastic reviews over on Analog Stick Gaming. And I'm like, maybe I do pivot and change. Maybe I do, because I have wanted to do more gameplay stuff for ages and just haven't had the time.
Yeah.
So that might be what I do on Eat Sleep Game now. Now that we've got the podcast over here now, maybe I just play around and do some more fun gameplay stuff akin to like Game Grumps and Markiplier and stuff like that, and just have some fun.
For sure.
So I've always wanted to do like, going back to the retro game stuff. I've always wanted to do like on a Wednesday, just a retro playthrough of something. So maybe that is just my contribution to the channel from now on, but we'll see. Time will tell.
Cool.
Because that's way easier, way more digestible to actually do on my end. But thank you for watching this very last minute, very weird episode of the Game for All podcast. It's thrown together at pretty much the last minute. I literally text yesterday to be like, yo, what's the plan for this week? It's like, oh, 2 of you aren't here. Fantastic. Did not know that. So no, thank you for joining me, Naman. Otherwise, this would just be me talking into the void.
It's a pleasure. As well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have the links to your stuff in the description. So please do go check out this Nintendo Life. Like I said, I love the podcast. I'm sure you will too if you're into any Nintendo stuff. Very, very good. Very, very good stuff over there. Do check out the rest of the content. I made a very serious video about very serious Pokemon. Definitely go check that out. It's definitely not me telling you whether I would sleep with certain Pokemon or not. Definitely not in any way, shape, or form. It's very serious content.
Of course.
Do go check that out. And yeah, hopefully next week we will all be back to normal and have everyone around. Maybe not Sean. Sean's away a lot at the moment. He's got a lot of personal stuff going on. So, maybe there'll be some sort of normality next week. But once again, thank you for joining me, Naman. Thank you for watching, everyone at home. I am terrible at outros, if you couldn't tell. So I am going to leave it right there because I will just ramble. And we will see you. I will definitely see you again next week. Don't know about the rest of them, but thank you for watching and goodbye.
Bye.